Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you from wherever you're joining us from. I'm Naren, and I'll be your host for this Testsigma webinar. And so excited to be doing this. Great to see some familiar names in chat, and really appreciate all of you taking time off to be joining us. We have an amazing speaker here today, Antoine Krust. But before we go to that, I have a couple of quick housekeeping points that I'd like to take you folks through. We are recording this webinar, so we will be uploading that on our YouTube channel. So once it's done, we will let you know via email. So feel free to access that. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button in your Zoom interface. We will be taking your questions towards the end of the webinar. So with that out of the way, let me quickly spend some time talking about Testsigma. Oh, by the way, we have Amit from the team here. So he's, if you have any questions about the product, about Testsigma, again, use the Q&A window and he'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thanks, Amit. All right. Right. So Testsigma is an AI augmented low-code test automation platform, right? And using Testsigma, QA teams can create automated tests 5x faster using plain English statements. And really, in a nutshell, customers have successfully replaced around more than 10 plus tools, right, with just one platform, Testsigma. Testsigma provides capabilities for automating web apps, desktop apps, mobile apps, API tests, UI, database tests, all using like I said, a low-code, plain English approach. And some of our customers, some really big names use Testsigma to automate their tests via plain English, low-code, and a couple of our investors. We are backed by the best in the business. If you have any questions, like I said, about Testsigma, please do ask us in the Q&A window, and please email us. More than happy to help you with your low-code test automation needs. Okay, with that out of the way, that brings me to the day speaker, and I'm really excited to introduce you to Antoine Krust, CIO of Grupo Luziavis. Antoine is someone whom I've been talking to for the past 1 month while working towards the webinar, and I can say that he's extremely passionate about anything digital transformation, software, and he actually has more than 10 years of experience in software itself in various positions as engineer, director, and most recently as CIO. By the way, congrats on that new role, Antoine. Best wishes. Anton is very passionate about community, and he has actually founded a lot of local chapters, communities, meetups in his local community around software and QA. And today's webinar is about his previous company, LaRedoute's transformation from a catalog and retail distribution model to how they moved to an e-commerce model, and how the QA team really helped accelerate that transformation and the test automation strategy that they used to accelerate that business decision. And trust me, it's a very interesting talk, but I do not want to steal Antoine's thunder. So without any further ado, Antoine, stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Very cool. Yeah.
Stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. There you go.
Yes, normally you should see my screen.
Yep, we do.
Okay, so yeah, so here today it was a bit the challenge launched by Naren. Also, it was we had a lot of people moving from web testing to app, because it's where the market is going. So we got a large experience in web testing automation. I will share a bit on that, and today we'll focus mainly on what was our journey from moving from a web to an app-first business, software, and QA and test automation practices, and what you can leverage on your side to be probably faster than us, because we have specific learning during that journey, and it's what I wanted to share with you today. So just So Hamid already, Naren already introduced me, but you can follow me mainly on QUnit and LinkedIn. I have here a bit of the community I'm involved and the product I'm leading. So in the macro plan today, I will share really about the LaRedoute business context, because I believe it's always important to understand what the businesses want to do to align what we will do in terms of IT, software, and QA test automation practice. And then we will dig a bit more into the mobile problem we were having in terms of transition and which solution, so here it's in singular, but in fact it could be plurals, we implemented and which takeaways you can take with you today. So Redoute, in fact, it's a company that was born in France, and it has more than 180 years of history. It was one of the first companies to have invented the catalog model, so that you get a big catalog in your house, like 1,000 pages, you had mail order and call center order. So it was, I would say, of the past, but the company was very famous thanks to this model. For example, in France, it has 99.9 notoriety among all French people, so it's a quite known brand, and now it's quite international also. So the company have made a transformation into this digital space, and not only in terms of digital, but also of connecting in different places with the customer. So what you see on the top left is we reopened around 50 points of sales, so with internal brands. On the right, you see all the internal brand we have in terms of clothing. On the bottom left, we developed also specific offers for B2B. So we were selling historically only to B2C customers, but we also launched that brand. And on the bottom right, what you see, it's, I would say we sell internal furnitures, but a bit more than the furniture, we sell atmospheres and the style of living, thanks to specific brands. And in fact, we managed this change largely due to the digital transformation we made and the investment in software. And this is what I want to share after. We have also software everywhere up to the operations. What you see here, it's a fully automated warehouse at the level of the Amazon's one for all the furniture we have and the clothing we have at the company. And in terms of context of the company, so I was sharing that it's a quite French-centric company. It's the history of the business. But we also expanded internationally. We expanded what we see on the right in a startup mode, because in fact, our driver was to go very fast at internal expansion. So we launched in parallel different, I would say, quite startup launch in different countries. And each country has to set up its own website, back office, ERP, finance, etc. system. So it means that when we started that effort, we ended up with a good market share because we are very fast to deploy, but we ended up with a very fragmented information system that was also very hard to test and to deliver quickly. So in fact, one first things we did when we initiated our major transformation, so when we started in 2014, we were selling only 40% online. And 4 years later, we are selling 95% online with a renewed customer portfolio, etc. And the first things we did in 2014, before addressing more structuring business changes, was to say, like, clean the house of the IT system. And we harmonized all the information system we have between French and international countries to be able to optimize them afterwards with QA and test automation. So in terms of web context, because it was really about web at that time, we made a convergence of the French and international web and web e-commerce platform to a single one, which is the stage at the middle. And after, we optimized it with a fully responsive website. In terms of back office, I will not enter into the detail. It's just to say that we distributed the information system in a more modular architecture with make or buy solution. This ended up also with a lot of testing effort. So today I will not cover that much the part of back office, in fact. And we also modernized with a lot of technologies, etc. But again, not the scope of today. So we made a strong focus and shift of the company to a digital-first company, from 40% to 95% of online sales, and we had to deal with, I would say, all the challenge that a lot of players are having in these days, so the responsive, multi-device experience, etc. So, and if we come back to the theme of today, so in the 2015-2018, we were really about the web-first era. It was all about the web and e-commerce is happening on the web interfaces. So mobile experiences, etc., were not yet I would say, the main focus. We had some app created at that time, but it was mainly for experimentation, new features, etc. After, thanks to the smartphone also optimization and reach into the market, we started to switch to a mobile-first model. So it was the time we ended up with an Android responsive website. We were also acquired by another company at the same time. And now we can say that we are really a company that have shifted from business to technology to QA to an app-first model, where we deploy everything first on the app, and then we accommodate it on the web experience or other channels we may have. And we also develop new type of app experience. We have app for vendors, specific app for partners, etc. So it means that we really made that shift from a web first to an app first. And our key goal was how we can leverage everything we have done in terms of quality and test automation on the left to accelerate passing on the right. So, and to share a bit what was our starting point. So we had made improvement into our organization. So what you see here, it's the digital organization that covers the web and mobile application. So it does not cover the entire back office, etc. I was showing previously. It's web and app for all countries. And what we set up here was a mix of component teams on specific area of the business. So you see on the top left checkout, you see a bottom CMS, etc. And we also had a specific team on the apps responsible to develop the app, and we later shifted these apps into every team. And in fact, it means that we already have, I would say, a quality enablement team, because what you see in the middle, it's a quality team that was responsible to orchestrate and maintain an alignment on the various QA practice into each feature team and each bubble, each circle you can see on the scheme. So we were not starting from nothing. We have like feature team organizing value stream on business value. And we have also dedicated QA, either manual or both automated, inside each feature team. And we had a central quality enablement team, not only responsible for animating the QA, but also to manage all the quality engineering platform at SEB, the deployment, the automation of environment, the automation practice, etc. So this type of topics. And what we had from our web experience, so as I was sharing, we had different QA profile in the team. So inside feature team, into quality advisor or QA leads, and we had also a transversal committee of practice. The second block you see on the left, and you can find back in the graph, it was our assets in terms of web testing automation. So back in 2017-18, we had around 5,500 non-regression automated tests on the web running in under 75 minutes, and this was happening every day. And we were able to release quite every day during all the year our full e-commerce platform and mobile application. So as you can see on the left, we had on a full year 17 no-go due to a very blocking bug, etc. We are not able to proceed forward with feature flag, but we were able to do more than 200 deployment in production of our web platform and support the business. And this was our starting point. We had nothing on the app. We had no practice of mobile testing or application testing. We had no testing farm, whether internally or in the cloud. And it was really, how can we help the business make the shift to the apps, because it's where the business is going. And the business, in fact, in terms of key numbers, so very strong argument. On the left, transformation rate much more higher. So if you see the like 9 to 10% transformation rate is very high in the e-commerce market. We had around 1 million of apps owners, more than 1,500,000 owners of the application, which is quite a bit more than, it's around 15% of our customer portfolio, 10 millions. And we had a drastic adoption of the apps. We were really seeing the market moving. So we have, you can see in the numbers, plus 58% of owners, net demand an increase of 45%. So really people were buying smartphones. They wanted to buy there everything from e-commerce to grocery, etc. And we had to be there. Our issue is that we were not able to deliver at the same quality and same speed as the web part, and it was limiting the business. So remembering also from all I will be sharing, this one in that time, 2015, 17, etc. So I will make at the end a recap of a bit about the state of the art today. Things have progressed and have changed in terms of the maturity of what you can find in cloud system, of cloud farm, etc. So we'll share that at the beginning. For now, consider that I will be sharing the history. So things have changed. You all know that. So what we started in 2015, where our app was only a POC for the business. So we started with 2 smartphones, and we started basically what we could say a POC, because we started to implement automated tests, focus exclusively on Android, and we had quite low and slow execution times, around 3 hours. So it was mainly around manual and testing with the device we had. So mainly to verify how can we test, in fact, a mobile application, how do we deal with the SDK, with the test environment, and how do we interact with it. It was really not sufficient and not helping that much the business, but we were still testing ideas, so no problem. In 2015, we started to have a bit more push from the business to make the switch. So we started to acquire more smartphones. We also made some tests on a mobile farm in the cloud. I will share afterward on that. And we started to have much more need of non-regression tests because we were adding business feature to the mobile application. And we had around 200 automated tests at that time. So what was quite good is we managed to don't have an execution, I would say, much more above the previous 3 hours, but it was still 2 hours and a half, which is quite slow when you have a team of multiple developers performing multiple changes and trying to deliver with speed. And in 2020, what we had done, so we had invested into a farm of smartphone in-house, so around 26. We also had the cloud farm in complement, we'll share later on that. And we had more than double our number of automated tests. So we were at more than 400 automated tests running at each release. And we already solved the problem of not having tests on iOS. So we were able to execute both campaigns of iOS and Android in less than an hour, more or less. So iOS 65 minutes, so a bit more. Thanks to that, we were already able to do multiple cycle time per day of non-regression for the developer and the business to have much more confidence to deliver. Because with 442 tests, we already are able to cover majority of the business critical features for the app. But it was not enough because the business was really pushing a lot the app. As you see the number of major transformation rate, this is where we can acquire new customers. This is where we have to grow, in fact. So we had to resolve specific challenges of test automation. So we had to improve even more the lead time of business change. So not only of test automation. Test automation was only the mean to accelerate business change and delivering new features to the customer. We started also to have what is today a lot found into SRE paradigm, etc. A lot of stakes around reliability because people are much more impatient on the mobile application. The stats are saying it. We are probably the same, and you are probably the same as me. If you take an app that is slow to respond, you have a bug when you open or whatever, probably you disinstall it, except if it have really unique products. But for the majority of the retail, you have alternatives. So reliability is as important as what you're offering as a business to keep the user on and be able to transform them. It was also about bringing the confidence to deliver and move forward, because when we deliver on a mobile application, we are also impeding our reputation on the stores. People can make reviews directly on who should download or not the app. You have the rankings that is impacted. So we have like a lot of stakes, both for the business and IT on that. And the confidence, it's always a risk between you cannot never guarantee everything because you have the lead time imperative on top. So our work with test automation was to bring the sufficient and strong confidence to move forward to ensure lead time and reliability. We had also to be able to provide experimentation capabilities. So while we need reliability on the very core features, etc., we need also to be able to activate a few features to test with the business new ideas and see if the customer are using it. And overall, we had also 2 other challenges, was to have much more fast feedback for the development team to know when I change that, can I move forward? And the team had also grown in the meantime, so we had more developers working together. And something that we don't talk enough for me in the QA and test industry is the trust to delete. So it's very important to keep the confidence and iterating fast, to don't accumulate test debt. And to don't accumulate test debt, you need also strong trust to remove what is not useful anymore. So we need also to increase the confidence in that mastery of our test referential. So we continued the investment on what we had done. So in 2020 to 2023, it was really the all-in app first mode that we had to make because the business was really making everything on the app. So I really structure in the 3 years what we achieved in terms of key outputs and key outcome. So in outputs, we still have much more business features and complexities to manage. So we had to increase the number of tests to support the level of reliability and confidence and lead time we had to cope for the business. So we more than double the number of automated tests to 1,000. And what we started to do is that we also dedicated specific devices for monitoring and regression, specifically for the reliability aspects I was sharing. So if we look on the scheme on the right, what we did is that we maintained a strong investment into what we had from the web experience, which is modular testing in BDD and keyword, aligned on the business so that it's much more easy to know what we need to improve, where are the reusable module, what can we delete, because if we change a rule, we stop specific business rules, we know we can delete the associated test. And this is what enables us to increase drastically the number of tests. And after, we had the two stakes. The first one in non-regression is to say, I made change on the system. Do I have the sufficient trust and confidence to deliver on the App Store and for our customer? This is ensured by the first farm of non-regression test we have, complemented by the cloud farm below. And this cloud farm is used on business day on a few core devices of Android, iOS, to make sure that if we run the 1,000 automated tests, we need to answer the simple question, can we deliver or not, or do we need to remove a specific feature? And after, the other farm, the second one you see on the right, it was for another use case. We have to monitor, we talk a lot about reliability, SRE, etc., but it's a lot about shifting right. And shifting right, it's looking what is happening in production. And this is what we had to do and what we implemented. So we implemented automated tests running on a very frequent basis, less than a minute on all countries, etc., on key customer journey, to verify that all the features were working always correctly on the app. We are also testing, installing, disinstalling the app, all this type of feature. And these devices are running 24/7, in fact, because I will not enter today into this detail, but you have a lot of challenges when you build your own farm with electricity, with the heat. You don't need to use if you have always the device on after they get with a lot of issues, so you have a lot of optimization to do there. And the cloud farm we were using below was using complement for both. So it was used for different use cases. It was used, for example, on non-regression to access quickly new features of operating system or devices, but also it was used as a DRP if we had any issue of availability in our physical farm. And it was used in that way for both non-regression and continuous monitoring, in fact. What we managed to achieve with that in terms of outcomes. So if you know the DORA metrics, you have a lead time, etc. So here I pick two. First one, which is the change failure rate, we managed to move it to around 7%, so which is quite low, in fact. And the second one, which is linked to that, is when we detect a failure inside this 7%, we managed to put the NTTR under SLA of the DORA Elite performance, which is under a few 15 minutes, if I remember correctly, to detect and 2 hours to fix. And we managed to do that on this first step and investment. Next year, 2022, we had to continue the investment because we were building a new type of mobile application for other people than our customer. And we were also increasing the complexity of our mobile application for our users. So again, we continue our investment in modular and properly designed web automated tests. We managed to pass to 1,000 to 1,700 mobile tests running. And we had also to resolve limiting factors. So first limiting factors we were having was on the non-regression farm. If we wanted to execute around the 1,700 tests in a very short period of time, we had to have more devices. There's no solution to that. Else, the cycle time, we can't wait too much time, too much hours. The business is waiting to know, can we move in production? So we double the number of devices for each farm, non-regression and monitoring, because as we increase the number of tests in non-regression, we have also the subset of tests used in production that we had to increase to be able to cope with the number of monitoring required by the business. So thanks to that, so we reduced by 3 points the change failure rate. So we were the previous year at 7%, we managed to move it to 4%. And what was very interesting for the both business, IT, as a company as a whole, was that the cycle time, we managed to keep it under 60 minutes. So it means that if a developer is doing a feature inside the mobile application, it can commit, we build the application, we deploy it in the different environment and the farm we have on-prem and in the cloud. And under 60 minutes, the developer has the feedback of the change on the 1,700 non-regression tests. So, and this was mainly due because we had a very central and monolithic architecture of the mobile application. I will share a bit later on that, is how we started to distribute these non-regression tests per area of the code to optimize, and it's a lot where the ecosystem is going right now. And this is in fact the steps the company is going this year. So the goal is to optimize now that we have a very working process with around 2,000 non-regression tests running quite fast. What we had to do is to make much more faster cycle time. And to do that, we had to divide the application into an even more modular application to divide the implementation and testing. So we are moving the application to React Native, as the website also moved to React on specific components. So it's a gradual migration. And we are allocating the non-regression test per component. And this enables us to give more flexibility, autonomy, and agility to each individual apps team working on specific business area, because they can work with more independence from other teams, and they can run the automated tests in their own context. They have to guarantee it's all the interfaces, both in the code and in explicit API interfaces, to make sure they are not breaking things with other systems there. And what is happening thanks to this separation and leveraging all our investment in the testing farm is that we are able to have our apps store ready every day. So it means that if we want, we can deploy multiple times per day a new application on the Android or iPhone Apple Store. We are not making it because we risk to be banned and the cycle of approval are quite slow, but we can make it. So this gives us very high flexibility and confidence that if we have any issue or fix to do, we have something ready and activated directly. We don't have to run in a mess of trying to do a deploy in last minute. And other important things, thanks to the separation of concerns with the modularity of the application and the testing, we managed to have the cycle time running under 30 minutes for the test, which is very important for developers while they are coding, they can code, etc., test a bit, and then in 30 minutes, they get a very good feedback, business feedback, in fact, in their feature, is it running or not correctly on that aspect. And it was also the opportunity to have a more formal CI/CD process per module of the application. And in fact, it was a journey we made, and the company is still improving and moving there. So the challenge now is to have different lanes of mobile application development and to increase even more this type of deployment. So I wanted to share a bit our experience in this farm implementation and what I can share in terms of learnings from that. Because a recurring question we saw is, should I use an online farm? Should I use physical device? Should I use emulator? What are the players on the market? How does that interconnect with my test automation platform? So you have multiple questions there. And in fact, there is only a few realistic alternatives to go there. So sharing what we did, and again, disclaimer, what we did, the ecosystem was not mature as of today. So for example, when you evaluated first the cloud farm evaluation back in 2015-17, so we were starting to have 10 parallel execution 2.5 hours, around 200 automated tests to run. So we got all the benefits from a cloud managed services, all maintenance, setup, new OS, new device on demand, scalability for them to execute more tests. But we got a lot of issues due to the, I would say, a lack of maturity at that time of the offering, a lot around the network, the interconnectivity, and the performance of the device, especially when it was emulators. And also the service of the provider was starting. So we had issue, for example, when we were opening ticket to get answer, etc. So in 2017, in fact, using the cloud farm was not really a good option. And this is why we started to make a large part of our mobile testing with the internal farm. This is what we set up. So we bought a shelf after we had 4. We had the smartphone support. So we bought iPhones with a Mac. We bought Samsung and PC to interconnect. We had to buy specific hubs. So in fact, it's a bit like a mini data center work. It was not our core business, but it was the best option to support it. We had an internal tool that is comparable to Testsigma, in fact. So today I'm not selling anything, but Testsigma can equally replace what you are seeing here, in fact, in a more simpler way. So it's a test automation framework able to do the test automation and able to connect to different devices, iOS and Android. And in fact, if you want to set up your own internal farm, whatever the tool you are using for testing, the infrastructure and devices you will end up with is very similar to the one you are seeing there. If you want to see, we have some video of what has been built by the company of the technology blog, so feel free to go there. And in fact, what we've ended up to do after the first step, when we say we had to build our internal farm, we come up with another problem, is that we were lacking access to a lot of different versions, a lot of different browsers. So in fact, we quickly, and this was the cloud farm you saw before in the scheme, we quickly need to have a cloud testing farm to cope with the multiplicity of OS devices that we had to test in complement to what we have physically first. Second point is that the market is very fragmented in the mobile world, so smartphone world. So having a cloud services enable us to test a few critical tests on a very different type of version, operating system, even the new ones that are just releasing that we can, for example, not yet buy in Europe, but that are already there in the US or in Asia. And it was also the backup and the DRP of the physical farm is needed, as we have on-demand scalability and it's a managed services. If we want 100, 1,000 automated tests running on X, whatever number of device, it's a matter of price, but you can do it. You have that extensibility capability. And it was also for us, another good reason is that this cloud farm was able for us to do more advanced testing in terms of specific links collecting data, so the personalization, the tracking of links, and the deep links, for example. So what we can share from that experience, and what I wanted to share today is how we can accelerate the shift from web to mobile or app, or how can you quickly go to an app testing world if you are on a startup or scale-up providing only app experience. So if you have something existing, how your test repository or your test management, whatever you call it, you have to leverage it to pivot to your app testing. For example, in our case, why we were also very fast to go to 1,000 or quite 2,000 automated tests on the app part is that we were able to leverage a lot of the features from our web testing repository to the app world, even if the implementation and the usability is very different, it's an app-first world, we are at least able to identify the key function and key user journey we have to support, and all the complexities and specificities we have. So if you don't have a test repository or requirement repository, you have to build one, preferably a unified solution, and leverage it when the implementation is changing from web to app to IoT to whatever type of experience your customer will be doing. We had also a strong, I would say, learning for us was to align regularly the business expectation, because the business wanted always a Rolls-Royce from day one. It was not possible. We had a lot of investment to make, go gradually. So we had a very huge work to make with the business to align, okay, we are investing that. This is what we are expecting to get in 1-2 months. So we also had to align that with the features that we're going to do, the roadmap, and also the investment in QA profiles that we're making on the business side. The third part is linked also to this point of expectation and linked to the investment you are able to make. Really focus on the limiting factors. You will always have 1,000 things to do to improve what you are seeing. The reality, you can do maybe only 10% of them due to the resource, conflicting priorities, etc. So one key aspect of our job and was of leadership was to always prioritize on limiting factors and remove and reduce all what was not necessary to be able to have specific deliverables there. One tactic we used well was always the link of outputs and outcome. And we also use a lot the business process mapping to find the value and to identify where was really the bottleneck. So in our case, sometimes it was the number of tests that were not enough. Once it was because we really lacked devices and capacity to execute tests in short time frames. So the program will change over time, and you need to keep that iterative, I would say, aspect. And after, if you want to make a POC, don't make a POC only for technical purposes. Now, in fact, the technology ecosystem is quite mature. You have native integration between tools. You have much more unified solutions. So, in fact, I would even more advise right now people to do a proof of value, because for me, if you are doing a POC, is that the solution you are picking is not mature enough. So pick mature solution and do a proof of value on what will bring most value for your business. And before starting anything, are very clear hypothesis of selection and success criteria, because else you will just be passing time there to play with technical tools, in fact. And specific test automation learning. So we made an investment from day one in our context for web, mobile API testing in modular, BDD, and keyword-driven testing. So one advice I can make you is to invest a lot in low-code, specifically for what supports your business use case and journey, because you are able to exchange on a common basis with the business. You avoid to have silo of business use case, user story translated into technical tests that then you need someone to make the match and maintain them. It's much more efficient to have direct collaboration between the two. If you need at some point specific scripts or whatever, try to hide them or make them in specific part. But for me, the most important part is always to keep a very strong alignment between your business behavior and customer behavior expectation and your tests and the software, in fact, at the end. So a very good way is to use low code for that, to simplify that part. And for the majority, in fact, of non-regression functional tests, you can do that. After, yes, there is performance test, security test, or whatever. The market is a bit less mature in that space. So yes, there is more technical tools, more scripting. But for majority of what your business needs to iterate at speed, for the functional part, low code is very satisfactory. Also, our job is to help the business. So a bit in line with what I'm saying goes, don't pass too much time coding, etc. Accelerate adopting SaaS solution with native integration. So today we still have a bit of the two. We have an internal farm and a cloud farm. So it is quite questionable, in fact, in the midterm if we'll keep the internal farm, because the offering have matured in the ecosystem. And if you have a cloud offering, you can focus more on your business. Usually, all the cloud offering are much more easily integrated into your test automation unified platform, like the Testsigma, for example. So you can accelerate a lot if you pick things that are already interconnected together, in fact. So for me, make the right choice for your business, not necessarily only from a technology perspective, see the big picture. And the last part for me is, in fact, there is a lot of options in the market, and Naren was sharing at the beginning that some options are very fragmented. So the cost of fragmentation is quite high when you need to iterate at speed and to deliver quality. So really, in specific part of your IT system and IT tooling, you look for unified solutions that are quite integrated. So unified solution doesn't mean they do everything. It means they are able to cover multiple use cases, and they are modular enough for you to accommodate different parts. And my advice really is to combine these three learnings for you to be very fast in delivering business value from your test automation QA practice, and don't focus too much on the technical aspects, because as we saw, your business can grow very fast if it manages to iterate at speed and with quality on the app. It depends also on what you are able to implement in terms of test automation. So thank you for attending today. I will now normally take a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Antoine. That was pretty fascinating, to be honest. So thanks for that. We do have a few questions here. Are you able to see the Q&A window?
Yes. Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah. Okay, but we can try to take them by order. If there is something a bit complex, I may ask to rephrase or whatever, but yeah. So on the first
Yeah.
question from Dirk on the non-regression test, so in fact, our delivery it was for the web platform, this number of tests. So our web platform was like a microlit architecture. So we had like big part of the system in very modular parts. And the delivery of the web platform was really monolithic, meaning that we delivered 3 big pieces of deliverables into artifacts, into production. And we also implemented trunk-based development, release train, etc. So it means that our cycle of delivery at the end, even if we have local implementations that need to work together, we had like this monolithic release train because the technology and the packaging of the web was combined, in fact. So this is why we had unit tests for the implementation. We had a few non-regression tests running for a specific part of the project. But what we were doing after is we were always running the full non-regression test suite to make sure to have a go-no-go visibility on the implementation. Yeah. So in fact, we had both. And you are right. I talk mainly around the web part. Yeah. So this was the first one. So I will take the one on Christian. So did you previously created test on your mobile device cloud? Yes, so in fact, for the first question, so I will do the answer live for people to see. So in fact, we are running the test depending on the target devices. So we have specific tests that are running only in our what we tag them core device farm. So it's Android and iOS on a few scope of device. It's like the majority of iPhone or Android phone used by customers. And then some tests are running in complement on the cloud device farm on different versions of iOS, of Android, or whatever, mainly for critical tests for the business. We don't do that for everything else. It's too slow and costly to execute. So in fact, and we are managing that prioritization and this choice of could I run this test on the cloud or on both using tags and the specifics and the test automation platform we are using. So, and this is one interest of my last takeaway, to use a unified platform, which is able to orchestrate and direct workload where you need. Yeah. And then question also, so how big is your test automation team? So, and do we use freelancer for picks? So in fact, we don't use freelancer. We have a strong team, which is quite fixed with internal and a few internal people, but they are there all the time. And the test automation team for what we shared today on the web and mobile parts, it's around eight people. Yeah, so today we have around 7,000 tests on web and app, both combined, and we have 8 people managing this test suite. And we are able to don't have 15 or 20 because we have modular testing, BDD, low code, and whatever sharing. So we are able to avoid multiplicating the number of tests by the overhead. So I think it's quite a efficient organization for the number of tests that we are also running every day. So every day we have like 15,000 tests running for web and app, not talking about the back office, and we have to do a validation. So, and after Anonymous, it was a question, we'll take the answer live. What type of issue did we encounter? But it was a bit the slide I was showing. So at the time, we had a slowness, issue of support, etc. In reality, since 1 or 2 years, majority of these issues are solved by providers. So it was the majority of issue we have. And in fact, the issue we were not having in the device farm was the inverse. So in the device farm, we were not having a latency network support issue because we were doing it and it was nearby, but we had the other problem, maintenance, setup, alerting, changing devices, managing the cooling, etc. So why it's always trade-off, you need to be clear on them and choose the best trade-off. After in cloud automation, you never have control over what resources are allocated to the execution node, the slowing down test. How did you deal with this? But yes, in fact, normally in what we picked in the market, we are using SaaS provider and we have SLAs. So in fact, we are not, if we are using, I would say, a fully SaaS managed test automation testing farm, you are accessing on a SLA, a device on demand. So here you are more managing the SLA response time on a device basis. So after, if you want control over the execution node. In fact, for me, you are not really contracting a testing farm. You are more contracting like a IaaS or a platform as a service model. And for example, it's a bit what the cloud provider are trying to offer, Azure, AWS, etc. They start to offer device more as a path where you have control over the execution node, but then it's a bit the same trade-off. So if you have issues on the application layer, it's your problem because they are not managing it. But yeah, the benefit is that what you can do is, for example, provision more execution node in advance because you know you will make a huge regression, non-regression suite. Yeah. So you are right, but for me, again, trade-off, yeah. And I think we went through. Sorry.
Just one more question about scaling.
Yeah. Yeah, but in fact, for me, first point is invest a lot in your test design. I think it's like in software, it's something too much not done. So people go directly from user story to test implementation. It's an error for me. There is a strong work of test design to make sure that they are maintainable, decoupled by design, that enable you to identify the business modules that you translate into test automation module. And in fact, in our context, we have like a Lego approach to our test automation. So we have a Lego of major user journey that we can compose. We have a Lego of test data we can use for different contexts, for example, different types of product people can buy, different types of customer profile, location, etc. So for me, the short answer is invest in your test design. The second point in the short answer is invest a lot into your organization to have a very proximity between your business and your QA and development team. They need to speak the same language. There's no need, there should not be any silo. So people should be talking like a single line of communication between requirement, development, test automation, or manual test, in fact. And you need to remove this type of silo and friction because each time loose between hands-off and managing another repository is what will make each part optimizing by itself, but not for the whole. So for example, if you start to have user story on one side and test automation repository on another side because you don't have a unified solution, it's not low code, people will start to optimize their test automation for technical purpose or whatever, etc. Business will optimize the user story for what they need. And at the end, in 6 months or whatever, you have very hard time to keep the two connected. And this is where you will be very slow to make change, to update. And unfortunately, you can end up with, say, let's start from scratch. But let's start from scratch, it's because you had a big issue by design. So for me, you really have to work at different levels. Design, architecture, technology, low code and collaborative, and build organization when people collaborate closely. Yeah. Only if you have that alignment, you are able to iterate at speed on a continuous basis, which we saw, which is the main challenge.
All right, I think that were the questions. We have more questions. Now is the time. Please, people, don't feel shy. Is there anything on the chat window? No, I think that should be it then.
Thanks for the question.
All right. Great. Thanks, Antoine. Once again, very informative and extremely fascinating. Love the story. And thanks for answering questions live. Really appreciate you doing this for us. Looking forward to working again with you for a future webinar. And thanks to all attendees, really, who made it. Really appreciate you taking time off your schedule to make it happen. Till this webinar, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.